You're listening to Little Rockers Radio. Thanks for joining us today. Now, do you ever have trouble getting your little baby or toddler to sleep? Today we're picking the brains of baby sleep consultant Natalie Herman. Hi Natalie, how are you?
Very good.
Now, can we start off just by talking about what sleeping through actually is? A lot of people's expectations is that babies will sleep from 7 to 7 while they're still young, so, a 3 to 6 month old baby. Is that actually the case?
No, so I think there's actually a lot of pressure on mothers today to get to that point where their baby is sleeping through the night, which is, it's unfair because I think probably in the first 3 months it's very unlikely your baby's going to sleep through just because of the fact that they need to feed during the night. And sleeping through is often defined by a baby's weight and not their age. So according to sort of the health ministry, they state that once your baby's either doubled their birth weight or they're over 7.5 kilos, they effectively don't actually need to eat at night anymore. But in this case, I would say that it's really dependent on how much they're eating during the day and whether they're boosting enough calories in the day to get them through the night. The second thing is, what I also implement is something called the dream feed, which I don't know whether the listeners actually know that. And that can be in place until a baby, is 7 months of age. And I would say that is effectively sleeping through the night, because your baby is actually asleep whilst feeding. So they would be sort of the things that I would define as even sleeping through, even if they're even having one feed.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually. I've never really heard of it as a weight-based thing before, but when I think of it, my two were definitely not 3 to 6 months of age when they started sleeping through. They were 8, 9 months. But it definitely makes sense that it's based on weight rather than age.
Absolutely. So, in some cases, you can have a premature baby. In other cases, they're just not gaining the weight that they need according to their age, and they have to actually feed at night. So I hope that helps a lot of mothers out there not to feel so much pressure, once they understand that actually is weight-related rather than age-related.
Now, I've also heard a lot of people saying that a relaxed mum leads to a relaxed baby, but I've heard some absolute opposites to this. What's your take on that?
I would have to say, Sarah, I actually agree with that notion. I think that our children, our babies, pick up our vibes quite instantly. They're very in tune with us, and they look to us for guidance in most situations. So it's very hard to say that you should always be in a very relaxed state of mind. It's almost impossible, especially as a new parent. It's not realistic to be like that, but as much as possible, you do need to try and remain calm, especially in about the 10 or 15 minutes before you're trying to put your baby down to sleep, because they actually need to be in quite a restful state in order to drift off to sleep. And I would say in that situation that we all have very stressful days, and, even not with younger babies, just in life in general. And if you are feeling like that, it's just a good idea to go for a walk. If, for instance, you've been trying to settle your baby at home and it's just not working, I always recommend, go for a walk. Both mother and baby will really benefit from the fresh air and the sun exposure.
Walking was my absolute saving grace when the kids were young. Now, if there's some mums that are listening with young babies or toddlers that are really struggling with sleep at the moment, what are some quick tips that you can give them that they can start with straight away?
Yeah, so I think that's the main sort of top 3 things that I would suggest. Probably post sort of 3 months, is just to make sure that you don't have such a busy day. So young babies need a lot of daytime sleep in order to ensure that they're not overtired, and overtiredness causes them to wake up a lot during the night. So you want to be able to give your child ample time to kind of be in their bed during the day for 2 reasons. Number one, because a baby will always sleep better in a cot than they will on the go. And the second reason is because you want them to get used to actually sleeping in a cot. You want them to understand that the cot is also a place that they need to sleep in both during the day and at night. And they're only going to have that expectation the more that you do it. The second thing I would say is that a baby can't handle a lot of awake time during the day. They get overstimulated quite quickly. So just ensure that you're not keeping them awake too long in between naps. That will be the killer in the early months as to why your child could become a terrible sleeper. Is if that you're sort of missing their sleep window. So if you see that they're exhibiting tired signs or they seem, quite irritated, you definitely need to push them off to sleep at that point. The third sort of main suggestion I would have is not to ensure bedtime is too late. This comes back to them not being able to stay awake too too long. This also is also from the time that they wake up from their last nap of the day until bedtime. They can't actually handle so much awake time. So even like a 6 or 6:30 bedtime for a young baby would be definitely something that I recommend. And a lot of people might think that that's quite early, but you'll see that when you start implementing an earlier bedtime, you'll find that your baby fights sleep a lot less and will drift off to sleep a lot easier.
And for those listening with brand newborn babies that are not quite used to their baby's sleep signs yet, can you give us an example of some sleep signs?
Yeah, so and it's exactly right, Sarah. You just don't know. You don't know what the sleep signs are as a first-time parent. So obviously crying is one. Arching your back is a huge one. Sort of pulling at their ear or at your ear, or pulling at their hair or your hair. Obviously yawning, having that very glazed look, where they're just sort of staring into space. But I would say any kind of like high-pitched crying or the arching their back is a very big sign of tiredness. And a lot of people mistake that as like them having reflux or wind, but it's actually not. It's actually just that they're very tired in most cases.
And quite often when they're overtired, they need more help getting to sleep. Is that right?
Absolutely. So that's why I say not to ensure that you know what your baby's sleep window is. And if we're thinking of like a 3 to 6 month old, I would say maximum sort of an hour and a half between naps is ideal. And yeah, you would definitely, if they are overtired, you'll find that they fight sleep a lot. Basically what happens is their stress hormone releases in their body, and it's called cortisol, and that makes them fight sleep. And that's the same for adults as well. It's not just children. So, when we feel very overtired, it's very hard to drift off to sleep. Also, what happens to us, we tend to wake up a lot during the night. So it's the same for babies, or even more so.
It can be such a stressful time trying to get babies to sleep. If there's any mums out there that would like to reach out to you, how can they get in touch?
I think the best way is probably on my website, which is just www.natalieherman.com. I would say that's the best reference of getting in touch with me, or just on my Instagram page, which is at Natalie Herman Baby Sleep.
Okay, and we'll have all of those links on our website too at www.littlerockersradio.com.au. Thanks so much for joining us today, Natalie.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
That was Natalie Herman, Baby Sleep Consultant on Little Rockers Radio. Thanks for listening.